Can you turn $100 into $3 million in 2 years? Are Americans swimming in credit card debt? And how many bonds should you own? Let's find out. Welcome back to the Personal Finance Club show. Hey, Jen.
Jeremy, what's up?
I hear you have a question for me.
I do. I want to know the last movie you saw in theaters. Do you remember?
In theaters?
Yeah.
What is this, the 90s? That's it.
What do you mean?
Actually,
You don't go to the movies? You have kids.
I've never taken the kids to the movies. They watch Blippi on YouTube.
Blippi count.
No,
Bing.
Andrew and I, there's like a theater that has they'll serve you dinner and you can eat. And
love those.
Yeah,
oh my God.
It's like outrageously expensive, but still for like a date night, totally works with. So Andrew and I went to a movie probably in the last year, maybe. I forget.
What was the movie?
It might have been Mission Impossible or something like that.
Okay, I didn't see that one.
Yeah.
I think the last movie I saw in theaters was Wicked, the second one. And
Nice.
It was at that theater that does like food, but I had eaten before, so I didn't, because it does cost an arm and even more than usual.
Yeah.
So my question for you is, are you like a snack sneaker inner, or do you take out a small loan to get movie popcorn?
It's nice to have the mortgage broker right there for you, so you can like fill all the docs. You're like,
sign here.
Do I want to do the 15-year or the 20-year? Well, I'll throw on the snow caps and you make it a 25-year. Okay, let's do it.
Honestly.
Yeah, I think that by like my personality is to like do the frugal thing. Like definitely like growing up, that was like an absurd idea to buy food from the the food counter. Like that was off limits 100%. Now I think I'd just be like, whatever, it's like in the big scheme of things, like relative to my budget at least, like it's not that big of a deal. But I guess that's the bigger problem now is like I wouldn't want candy. I'm not like buying like a family size crate of candy to sit there and shove in my face while I'm watching a movie. Maybe
no popcorn?
No, Andrea eats we go through Costco bag size of popcorn. Costco bags of popcorn.
Pre-popped.
Like it's pre-popped, yeah, for sure.
Nice.
But we also have an air popper with the kernels. We eat a lot of popcorn. It's probably not very healthy. But yeah, I think movie theater probably would just buy it. I guess
the butter is the unhealthy part. Popcorn itself probably isn't that bad.
Yeah, no, I think actually like popcorn itself, it's like corn, it's like a vegetable. It's like how different is it? But yeah, all the butter and salt and pepper, probably not great.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I think I would be like a sneak it in guy, except probably not as much these days. I would probably just buy whatever I wanted.
Yeah.
This is like the Jeremy used to be frugal show.
I know, right? You've changed.
It went fast. I do think like once you're in a family, it's like, oh, now there's multiple people spending. Right. Might as well just go nuts, whatever.
Yeah. I can really only control yourself.
Yeah.
I think that I am half and half, because there's something about getting like a movie theater popcorn. But in terms of all the other stuff, like a meal is crazy to me, because you can drop like $50 on food at the movie theaters. Like,
it's crazy.
It's insane.
I remember my first date. I'm going to tell one of these old man stories. My first date ever, I was like 15 years old. Like her dad dropped us off and my mom picked us up, and we went to Arby's and we went to the movie theater. Like pretty good first date.
Arby's is crazy.
Arby's is crazy.
People go to Arby's?
For a date, that's a pretty rough first date. If I was 15, maybe it was a different time. I don't know. And I think for like, I paid for everything, 2 dinners, 2 movie tickets, 2 popcorns. I think I spent $20 total that night. And I just remember thinking, my God, I hope dating isn't always this expensive, because I will not be able to afford this.
Cut to, you're like, I don't have a budget anymore. I'm married and now have no budget.
Well, that's true. I'm like, oh yeah, what does it cost? $1,000 for popcorn, whatever.
Charge it.
Yeah. Put it on the credit card. I hope I can afford to pay the bill. I think at the time though, I had like $100, so spending like 20%. I think if I spent 20% of my net worth day on a date, I'd also be equally concerned.
Oh my God, that's funny.
That's like the equivalent of me spending like $1 million on a date right now. I would be like, Andrew, what are we doing here?
Well, what would you have to do to go on $1 million date? You'd have to take like a private jet for sure somewhere.
That wouldn't even get you close. Private, you can fly private pretty much in the world for couple 100,000 maybe, you know.
That's
If you're taking
That's 20. That's 20%.
well, okay, but that's like, then what, you know, like
And then
what
what?
kind
I
of
know.
hotel, like spending $1 million on a date would be, that's a lot of
Tough.
spending.
I challenge you to spend $1 million on a date this year.
You know, you'd probably have to rent a yacht. You could rent a yacht probably
Yeah.
for if the date can last multiple days. If you're trying to spend it in one night, I don't know. I'm not rich
I think
enough
it
to know
needs
how
to be
spend
24 hours. Like it can't go over 24 hours. I want you to see what you could do.
Have you seen Brewster's Millions?
No.
Oh, you haven't? Oh,
Mm-mm.
it's
Never
with
heard of it.
really? It's with that famous. It's like when people list like the best comic. He's a black guy. I can't think of his name right now. But he's from like the 70s, 80s, and when they list like the best comic
Richard
of all
Pryor?
time, Richard Pryor. Thank you. I knew you'd come up with his name. But yeah, he stars Richard Pryor, and and you know, some weird circumstance, he has like a great random uncle or something who dies and leaves and is extraordinarily wealthy. And I forget the numbers, but something like you can have $2 million right now, or if you can spend $2 million in the next 7 days, we'll give you $100 million.
Nice.
But the rule is at the end of 7 days, you can't have, you know, and this was back in the 80s. So you probably have to like add a zero to these numbers now to make it interesting. You have to spend $20 million in the next 7 days. But at the end of the 7 days, you can't have anything but the shirt on your back. So you have to like dispose of all this money. You know, you can't own a car, you can't own an asset, you can't, you know, you have to like.
Interesting. I gotta watch that.
Right. And it's like really, really, it's one of those movies I think about all the time just because, you know, the moral of the story is basically he did it, he won, and
spoiler alert,
crazy 7 days. I know. Well, if you're spoiling Brewster Millions right now, then you're 40 years late. But like he got so sick of money that he didn't even want the money at the end of the challenge, right? And so I think that his like great uncle was trying to like teach him this lesson that, you know, more isn't always better or whatever.
Right.
And you know, John Candy was in it. So it was funny. It was a funny movie.
Man, classics. Both dead, right?
Totally. Both dead. Yeah. Way to bring it down.
I'm just saying, like 2 legends gone. I mean,
yeah, no, before their time too, for sure. Yeah, no, they wouldn't be that old today. I don't think they're probably around 30 back then.
They both died super young. Yeah. Richard Pryor was definitely a drug thing, and then John Candy was like heart attack.
I assume it's just heart, drugs, overweight, whatever. Yeah.
What a great note to get into this podcast with.
Anyway, let's talk about hot topics.
Let's get into a hot topic. Okay. So I've got a CNBC Instagram post that says credit card debt tops 1.28 trillion, trillion. So since the time of this post, the U.S. has crossed over the 1.3 trillion mark. So what does this say about the state of the average American?
And the subtitle of this even says, consistent with K-shaped economic divide, New York Fed research shows. And so the K-shaped economic divide is interesting because there's a lot of talk about a V-shaped economy where the market goes down, the market goes back up. So there's like this crash and there's this recovery. And so you hear a lot about this V-shape. But what happened around 2020 was kind of interesting where the market crashed, which is the beginning of the V. And then a lot of like high income people got these amazing jobs back. AI took off, stock market boomed. You know, the V was kind of there, but then like half of the economy, half of the humans were saying, wait a minute, I don't own any stocks. I'm a regular person. I don't have a job with Meta making $1 million a year. I don't live in Silicon Valley. I'm like a regular person. This economy bounced back, but I didn't bounce back. It's harder for me than ever. And so these economists are now talking about this thing called a K-shape, where there's like this drop, which is like the first down line. Mm-hmm. And then there's 2 lines coming out of the drop, an up line where like the wealthy basically bounce back, and then the, you know, non-wealthy keep going down.
That's not a K.
The K thing, admittedly, is a stretch. I actually have a picture.
I was like really trying to figure it out in my head. I was like, "What? How is this a K?"
No, so he'll show the picture. It's like the K is a little bit of a stretch because there's no left leg to the K. There is kind of I don't know what it's. K is as close as you're gonna get from a letter. So if you're trying to go from V, you know, we're still missing one of the legs of the K, but. I agree it's a stretch, but that's what they're calling it. And this, you know, credit card debt it's kind of part of that picture that's being painted. Because while we love to say the Dow's at 50,000, let's all, put our hands over our head and cheer, or the stock market's hitting record highs. And as much as we talk about on this show, because I want you to be on that upper part of the K, I want you to be like one of the wealthy people. The reality is like most Americans don't own much of any stocks. Most of the stock market is owned by wealthy people because they can afford, they have extra money after they eat to buy things like stocks and real estate and things like that. And so when you say the stock market's at record highs, for a lot of people, that doesn't help them at all. That means nothing to them. That's like a background noise, nonsense headline that means nothing to them, because their problem is groceries are expensive and I don't have any money left out of my paycheck after I pay for my food. And after I get my paycheck, pay for my food and pay for my rent, and I don't have any money left, and the kids need new shoes, what do? Well, I go to credit cards to just live another day and try to figure it out later. And this shows that this is what the headline's saying. Hey, we're at $1.28 trillion. It's so big I can't wrap my head around it. I do have a chart I'll show right here, which shows that, okay, it's high. In fact, this chart, you can see there's one recession that's labeled in gray on the chart, which was 2020. And there was the drop. And then there was like this top part of the K, but this is kind of a, the drop here is interesting because there's a bunch of stimulus money. So basically the government said, whoa, everyone's losing their jobs. We're going to just put money into everyone's pockets to try to like weather this storm. And to, citizens' credits, this shows that people paid down their credit card debt, and we're trying to like be, it doesn't show like, maybe there's another chart that shows the number of jet skis owned per capita or something. And maybe people are also buying jet skis. But largely, I think, when people are given money who are in rough financial positions, they do well by it. They pay down their debt, they buy food they need, they buy the kids shoes, whatever it is. And so this shows that, which is saying, hey, during that stimulus, credit card debt actually dropped a lot, and throughout 2020, 2021, but then it started rising even more steeply, which I think goes to show this K style, what are they called again? The K-shaped economic recovery, where it's like, hey, the people at the bottom after that recovery were even worse off. Now inflation took off and the stimulus stopped, and now credit card debt came back and even more. And now we're at this new record high. And, that's the reality of our economy right now, which it sucks for people who are trying to make ends meet and just barely be able to cover their expenses and having to live on credit cards. The New York Fed, which kind of tracks this stuff, also said that something like 175 million Americans have a credit card, which is basically like every adult, I assume. I mean, who doesn't have a credit card these days? And they say 60% carry a balance from month to month. And in my world, that's insane. Rule number one of personal finance, well, it's not true because rule number one's live below your means, but in terms of debt, carrying credit card debt is the worst thing you can do because the interest is outrageous. Mm-hmm. It's like 20%, 25%, 30%. And so if you go and put $100 on your credit card, you might be paying $200 for that over the next 3 years as you're paying it off, because the rates are so high. And it just is a horrible function of American society, which is, we kick people when they're down. If you can't pay for the $100, how are you going to pay for the $300 with all the interest, right? You're paying more. You're paying overdraft fees and interest, and it's really hard. And so the takeaway is, it sucks, and I'm sorry it sucks, and this is the world we live in. But be aware of that and do what you can to climb out harder, faster, get out of that debt as soon as you can to get on this other leg of the K, because you don't want to be the part that's in the washing machine getting pushed through credit card debt. And, it's easy to say on a podcast and hard to do, I know, but do what you can to advance your career, work extra jobs, sell stuff, side hustles, extra shifts, whatever you can to aggressively pay down that credit card debt and get your debt to zero, and never ever carry a balance on a credit card again. Because when you're in that wash machine of trying to make your payments, it's just so hard to get out of it, and you don't want to stay there. You want to stay there short as possible. So if you're one of the people listening who's in this situation, it's not easy. It's going to be tough, but do what you can to pay off the debt as quickly as possible, and then never ever carry a balance on your credit card again. And that might even mean cutting up your credit card. I'm not like Dave Ramsey, who says no one ever should ever have a credit card. I'm like living here on planet Earth where we're all paying with our phones now, but the money does spend really easy when you're just happy to pay, and you actually might not realize it, but you spend more. And so if you need to cut up your credit cards and pay with a debit card and put your debit card on Apple Pay or pay with cash, do it for a while to get out of that system, because it's rough. It's rough being in that month-to-month credit card situation.
Yeah, I don't. My credit cards are not linked to my Apple Pay. It defaults to my debit. Yeah.
Oh, interesting. Good for you.
I just like had it for like that for a while, and then it was like it gave me the option. I was like, no, I don't want to like that to be like second nature. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
If I'm paying first.
I actually love that, because I think, just mentally or psychologically, the more abstract spending money gets, the faster you spend money. And so
yeah, even the act of just like having to take, I'm like, oh, I'm paying for this my credit card, let me take it out of my wallet, like, it's just like
totally
a different thing.
Right. And my first date, when I had $100 to my name, I spent $20 my first date. That was like the pain. I could feel the pain. I could like, oh, I went from 100 to 80. That's killing me. Right, on my Arby's date. But now I like tap my Apple Pay, it's connected to my credit card, I don't see the bill till the month, the bill's on, it's like all so abstract. I'm like, okay, who cares if movie theater treats are $1,000, whatever, all it comes out in the wash. And so trying to make it less abstract, make it more concrete by using your debit card, pulling out your wallet, checking what's in your checking account to see if you can afford it, or using actual cash and, seeing it for real. I think that'll actually make you spend less. And so if you're someone who's like struggling with spending and struggling with your budget, consider steps like that, because the more abstract you keep it, just the more money just flies out of your account without you noticing.
Right. I don't often feel bad for men, but I do feel like it's unfair that they have to pay for so much when they're dating. My friend's getting married in October, and he was talking about like how when he was on the apps, like her fiance was talking about how when he was on the apps, he was like, he would set aside time where he would tell his friends that he was going to be off the grid to date because he was trying to take it seriously, and he would also set aside like X amount of dollars. And he's like an investment banker, like I forget where he works in New York, but like he makes money, but it was still like, I'm setting aside this because I know 3 dates a week is going to mean X amount of money depending on like who the girl is. And I'm like, damn, that's crazy. I don't have to think about that stuff,
Yeah, interesting. But like, I think the counter argument to that is that women say they pay like the pink tax, where, when they date, they have to like buy a different outfit and get their nails done and get their hair done. And, in my age group, get childcare or pay for a babysitter.
For sure.
And then guys like roll out in the same t-shirt that they like, had in college and pay $70 for dinner, and they're like, oh, I paid all this money. So
yeah, I'm also curious about like how real. I personally don't know women who are like, I went out for the free dinner. I'm like, I don't know those girls. Like, maybe they're out there, but like, they're not my friends. You know what I mean?
I agree. I have this thesis that the concept of a gold digger is like much, much dramatically more a function of like a pop culture myth.
For sure.
Reality on the ground.
Agreed.
And like you see the occasional like young hot girl with this gross old billionaire or something like that, but that's really unusual. I think the much more common thing is like young hot chicks like to date young hot guys, even if they're broke, And,
it's facts.
Gross old dudes with money are maybe hope they're creepy or can go get some young girl to go for him, but like that's pretty unusual. I think here in normal people world, like you see the occasional Bill Belichick with the
gosh,
the cheerleader or whatever, but that's pretty unusual. I think more commonly, like young hot girls want to date young hot guys. Like looks and age and fitness and personality have dramatically more to do with it than just either going for rich guys or even just recreationally trying to get free dinners on dates or whatever. Like, I just don't think girls are doing that much. It's just not worth it to go hang out with somebody you don't like.
It's not worth it, girls. This is not a dating podcast. And let me tell you, ladies, it's not worth it.
Do you always pay on the first date? You're a female and you are not married. When you go on a date, are you paying? Are you expecting them to pay? Like, where do you personally
I don't care either way. Like, if I'm having a good time, I'm not trying to like, I don't split hairs. Like, I don't mind splitting the bill. And I try and keep it low key. I try and do coffee on a first date anyway, so it's not really gonna matter. It's a nice gesture, but also I'm not going to a 5-star restaurant, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So it's a nice gesture, and I think it's indicative of that person's personality a lot of the times, but it's not like I've been on multiple dates with somebody who didn't pay on the first date, and it was fine. I'll say the reason it didn't work out is not because they didn't pay for things.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Totally. Yeah, I would always pay just because I'm like, I'll pay for everything. I just, want to do the right thing, have like chivalry, not be totally dead. But I do like when like the scrappy, when I was going on a date with a girl and the scrappy girl would be like, let me pay her. Like, you're at least like feign the reach for the wallet or whatever.
Yeah,
because I think it's like a little bit.
You gotta at least try. You can't just be like, yeah, you got it.
I definitely went out with some girls who like never even suggested that they might pay anything. They just waited for me to pay it, and it didn't bother me really. But I don't know. I guess I didn't really realize why. Like, do you just think that like I owe it to you, or because I want a girl that's like not subservient to me, and I want a girl who's like an independent, strong person of her own, and like we're meeting for an equal partnership, not for like exchange of funds or something.
I'm with you, Jeremy. I'm on your side.
We have gone so far off course. What were we talking about? K-shaped economies? Okay,
yeah, we're getting out of that K-hole.
Let's get out of the K-hole.
All right, let's move on to, do you want to have your question answered on the show? Go to personalfinanceclub.com/ask. Can I ask a dumb one?
You're asking smart questions to dumb people. Send in your dating questions. Just kidding. This is not a dating question. What do we have?
I would be terrible at a dating podcast. Okay, so we've got a question from Mary in the Chicago suburbs. Mary asks, can you explain how to determine the ratio of stocks to bonds in a portfolio? I've seen recommendations to move towards bonds as we get older and closer to retirement, but bonds have so much less income/growth. How do I know when to invest in bonds? More context. I'll be 50 in the next year. My husband and I have about $1.2 million in retirement savings, index funds, and another $400,000 in brokerage funds from an inheritance. We'd like to think about retiring early in the next 5 years or so. Realistically, we'll find something to do, so maybe even be more coast-fi than fully retired. I want to be sure we have enough money to be comfortable, but I also want to figure out how to navigate risk. Bonds seem to provide less risk for less income. And then I also want to say, this is not part of Mary's question, but she said, thanks for all you do to make personal finance less scary. I have generally been a buy and hold index fund person, started at 15% of my income and now max out my contributions. And even with Nectarine, it feels difficult to choose a financial advisor from a website without knowing much about how they actually handle money. So shout out Mary for her kind words. Yeah.
And thanks for shouting out Nectarine, and message us if you need help picking a financial advisor. I know part of the challenge of Nectarine is you just see a bunch of profiles with reviews, and we try to give you everything you can. But we're working to make it easier for you too. So give us a shout out. And if you need a flat fee financial advisor who's not going to sell you something or push you into some weird investment and just give you just advice for just the money, check out HelloNectarine.com.
Ding.
This episode, is it sponsored? I don't know, but I'm a co-founder of Hello Nectarine. I'm a co-founder of Nectarine. I don't know why I say Hello Nectarine. The domain is Hello. Right. The website's Hello Nectarine, but the business is called Nectarine. We just couldn't get the real domain yet, but we might try to buy it one day.
Ooh.
And also, Mary is from the Chicago suburbs. Did you know, Jen, I used to live in Naperville, Chicago for one summer?
No, I didn't. I don't know where that is or that you lived there.
Or Naperville, Illinois. I mean, not Naperville, Chicago. Yeah, Naperville, Illinois is a suburb of Chicago. So I can virtually guarantee you that Mary knows exactly where Naperville is. So Mary, if you're listening, I was there once. And your question about bonds is great. Let me correct one little thing though, because I think maybe part of this concern is, or part of this misunderstanding is part of your concern. You said bonds have so much less income/growth. Mary, that's not true. Bonds historically have less growth, but have more income. And I'll tell you what that means.
Did you know?
Jen will break into song for whatever your name is. You know
that song, the Christmas song? Mary, did you know?
I don't think so.
What? Okay, continue. We don't have time for that.
We don't have time for this. We've gone too many tangents.
Go.
So I'll give you an example. Right now, if you were to buy VOO, it's paying about a little less than 2% in dividends. So 1.8% per year. And so that means, like, let's say you bought $100,000 worth of VOO. At the end of the year, you'd get about a $2,000, or throughout the year, you'd get over the course of the year, you'd get about $2,000 in dividends and cash deposited to your account. Meanwhile, you can go buy bonds from the U.S. Treasury, which are largely considered to be the safest investment on earth because the U.S. government has the largest military on earth and they can print the money. And so they're going to make those payments. You can buy bonds that are paying 4%. And so instead of getting a $2,000, cash dividend payment, you get $4,000 in coupon, in bond coupon payments. And so bonds actually have more income. And they also are much less volatile with regards to the whims of the market. So for example, if, whatever president you didn't like out of the last two did something crazy and the market dropped by 40%, bonds are not going to likely drop by 40%. They're going to keep making those same income payments, and then the value of the bond, if you were to sell it, might not even drop at all. It might increase based on what rates are doing, and they basically hold their value more. And the whole idea of a bond is it basically holds its value over long periods of time, and then just pays you just for owning it. And the reason that it's kind of traditional financial advice to move towards bonds as you age is because when you're 70, you're not really that concerned about your 30-year maximizing growth trajectory. You're more worried about your next 5, 10, 15 years of just living off of your investments. You're worried about the income. And if you can avoid this volatility, this crash of the stock market and get more income, that's a good trade-off. And so your question, and by the way, congrats on having a net worth of north of $1.6 million between your two accounts. That's amazing. You'll be 50 next year. You're just a little bit older than me. You're looking at doing Coast-Fi, which is awesome, which means you're basically, not fully retired, but maybe taking a lower paying job that's more fun, whatever it is, which is great. And so the answer to your question is, when you're in your 20s, you want to have little to no bonds, because if the market were to drop by 50%, that's actually a good thing for 20-somethings, because that means they can use their income to buy more stocks at a lower price and then realize that longer growth of the principal over time. But when you're 70, like I just said, you want to have more income so you can just live off of it and not risk your nest egg going away. And you're kind of in this middle bubble area, which is like, okay, you're not 70, you're 50, you're not dead yet. You still have probably lots of really good working years ahead of you and maybe some high income working years. But to be fair, you're not 20 either, and neither am I. And because you're not 20, if the market were to plummet today, you might not be okay with your 1.6 million becoming 700,000. And now you're like, oh man, well, how are we going to claw it back up in time for retirement? And so there are some kind of old-fashioned rules of thumb where you basically start introducing bonds as you age. The oldest fashion is you take the number 100, subtract your age, and the remaining number is the percent you should be in stocks. So for example, if you're 20, 100 minus 20 is 80. So a 20-year-old should be 80% stocks. If you're 70, 100 minus 70 is 30. A 70-year-old should be 30% stocks. That creates like a nice linear path of bond introduction as you get older. I think these days, pretty much everyone thinks that is too conservative, which means that has too many bonds. Saying a 30-year-old should be 30% bonds is too much, right? So the new number is, a lot of people use, is 120. So you take the number 120, subtract your age. So if you're 120 and you subtract 25, that would mean 5% bonds, 95% stocks. If you're 70, 127 minus 120 minus 70 is 50-50. It's like a 50-50 portfolio. That, I think, is closer, but I think that might even just be too linear, saying, okay, you don't really need to be introducing bonds at all when in your 20s and 30s. But then when you're in your 50s and 60s, you should maybe be introducing bonds faster. By the way, the underlying subtext to all this is what you shouldn't do is reactively add bonds when you're freaked out by the market. That's the worst thing to do. You should be approaching this very systematically, like a sociopathic robot, like I always say. Make a plan, stick to it, ignore the craziness, because if you don't do that, what's going to happen is the next time Trump decides to capture the leader of some country and the market drops by 50% and you say, oh my gosh, this is the time that I am too freaked out. I'm going to sell my 1.8 million is down to 800,000. Now I'm going to sell the 800,000 and put in bonds. You've lost because you've sold low and you've let your portfolio drop before you win the bonds. You need to do this systematically before the drops happen, so that bonds can do their job of preventing the unforeseen drops, right? And as we've seen the last 2 years, early 2025, Trump went on this tariff crazy spree. The market dropped by 10%, and then what do they say? Taco, Trump always chickens out.
Mm-hmm.
Whether it's he chickened out or whether the Supreme Court ruled them to be illegal, the tariff thing kind of went away and the market rebounded. People who sold at the bottom of that missed out. Same thing happened this year. Trump invades Iran. The Strait of Hormuz is closed. This is still an ongoing issue, but the market tanked, and now the market has rebounded back up to record highs. If you're selling at the bottom, you're really burning yourself. If you're slowly, systematically, sociopathically, robotically moving to bonds, then your portfolio is becoming less volatile when these things happen, in accordance with how bad of a thing it is based on your age. 20-year-olds should love the buying opportunity. 70-year-olds should be appreciating the higher income produced by bonds. So all that said, I don't really like either of these rules of thumbs. I think the best way to do is to go look at an actual target date index fund and look at what they do inside of it. And so I'm showing a chart on the screen right now that shows the bond proportion by age for your age. So if you're 20, it says 10% bonds, all the way up to 40, 10% bonds. And so that's not linear based on every age, every year older. It's actually flat for the first, 20 years of investing. Then it starts kind of increasing the more of this like S-shaped pattern where it increases like quickly and then more slowly. And so 50, if you're about 50, it should say, hey, 24% bonds. That's the number based on this, this plan that's been put out in front of you. And so I think that's a perfectly reasonable number. There's no right or wrong. It's not like, it should be 26 or it should be 22. I think the more important thing is you just have a plan and you stick to it. I think the terrible thing to do would be reactive or overly mess with it. And so that's why I love target date index funds, because you can just put all your money into a single fund. It will automatically allocate the correct amount of the fund towards bonds for you automatically based on your age, and you don't need to think about it or remember to log in and change it or sell or trade or do anything. You can just put your money in and leave it there and let it work. It seems so simple, it must be wrong, but it's not. It's so simple, it's even more right. And it's at a very, very low cost, by the way, to target date index funds. With Vanguard are like 0.08% expense ratio per year. I think Fidelity's are like 0.12. They're all, dramatically lower than an actively managed fund, for example. And so I love target date funds because they handle this issue for you. If you want to do it yourself and you want to be buying bonds individually, I think looking at their glide path, which is how you glide from stocks to bonds as you age, is a perfectly good way to do it. And, I wouldn't get too focused on being off by 1%. I would get more focused on making a plan and sticking to it over time.
Nice. We actually get kind of a lot of questions about bonds in our inbox, so
interesting.
Figure I'd pick one.
Bonds are so boring. Like, we don't talk about bonds much just because everyone wants to talk about Nvidia and stock picking. But I
think people have a similar question to Mary that they're like curious. They're like, why would I do that? Almost,
Yeah. And the reason you do it is because they provide more income. I just saw a clip of Mr. Wonderful Kevin O'Leary from Shark Tank, and he basically says your whole goal in this financial world is to get $5 million and stick it in bonds. Because if you get $5 million and stick it in bonds, you can get a 5% return. Not 5% return, 5% of income from your bonds. That gives you $250,000 a year, and you're set for life. You never lose the principal. The $5 million never goes anywhere. It just kicks off the 5% every year. Like, that's a pretty, obviously we're talking about millions of dollars, and everyone would like that, of course. But his point is, bonds are great because they provide very little risk. They just sit there doing their thing, providing income, kicking out money to you, and they provide pretty high income. And so if you can provide this fortress of solitude of bonds, which would be great. Most people don't have 5 million, period, much less 5 million to throw into bonds. But his point is, bonds are great for that reason because they can provide income for you. For a normal person's portfolio who doesn't just have this weird $5 million benchmark and then they're a Shark Tank on top of that, or they're a shark on top of that. You just have a mix. You say you have a mix based on your age, which is done for you automatically in a target date fund.
TDIF. Nice. Okay. Let's go on to Scroll Patrol.
She just said TDIF. Oh, wait, we have to do that again because I forgot to say Scroll Patrol.
Okay, Jeremy.
So you can leave it all. You can leave it all in, but we're going to do the Scroll Patrol thing now. Ready, Jen? Go for it.
Let's move on to Scroll Patrol.
Scroll Patrol.
I know Jeremy has to hydrate at some point, folks. We got to cut him some slack. All right. So as you know, I find videos on the internet. Jeremy does not know what these videos are. We're going to watch it together. He's going to react live and give it a score. So Jeremy, when you're ready, click on that link.
All right. I've not seen this video. Let's watch it.
Is your daily friendly reminder that if you take $100, put it into a broker account, build that account 2% daily for 260 days, because we do not trade on weekends or holidays, you can have a little over $17,000. Now, wait. Don't stop there.
No, don't stop there.
You're going to leave that amount in there, specifically $17,564.87.
Exactly, 87 cents, right?
And you're going to keep building that 2% daily for another 260
because we almost trade on weekends.
And guess what?
Then what?
You will have a little over $3 million in 2 years.
From $100.
But that's just a friendly reminder.
That's just a friendly reminder. These, I can't help but talk over these super duper absurd ones because they're so, and she left. I think we started with $100 there, didn't we? We started from 100 and left with 3 million.
Is that what she said? 100? Let me make sure.
It wasn't 100 per day. It was 100 total.
$100 and put it into a brokerage account.
Yeah.
And then build it 2%.
Yeah. I think
daily.
She said broker account.
Broker, yeah. She said broker.
All right. So I'm going to do the math on this with a calculator live right now. Hold on. Wait, I'm going to even record my screen. With a calculator
live. Yeah, record your screen. Let's get interactive here.
All right. So here's my calculator. And this is, I'm going to actually check her math live right now. I haven't checked the math, but you can get a 2% return, which was 1.02. That's a 2% return. And every day you get this, you would multiply it by itself. So 1.02 times 1.02. So after 2 days, you have a 4%. Oops, I did that wrong. 1.02 times 1.02. I did it wrong again. 1.02 times 1.02. After 2 days, you'd have a 4% return. Times 1.02. After 3 days, you'd have a 6% return, then 8%, then 10%, then 12%, then 14%. You're kind of getting it, right? And so to do that math.
This is riveting.
To do that math, wait for it. So you're doing 1.02 to the power of 260, which I'll just take her word for it, that there's 260 trading days in the year after weekends and holidays, fine. Which means after 1 year, you would have a 172x return. And you multiply that by your initial $100, which is $220. So I think that's, or $17,220. Is that what she said? It wasn't exactly that.
She said something about 17,000. Yeah.
She came up with 70,564.
And 82 cents, don't forget.
87 cents. I think my math is correct, but the fact that we're close is pretty good. And then, and so that 1.02 to the power of 260, that's 172x. So that's $17,000 times 172 after year number 2 is $2.9 million. But wait, why stop at year 2? Because if you do it one more time, times 172 at year 3, you'd have $502 million, half a billion. And if you did it one more time, 172, this is on now, I think we're on year 4, you'd have $86 billion.
Just like that.
And so if you're catching my drift here, and that's only year 4, let's do year 5 just for fun. After year 5 times 172, you'd have, gonna have to count commas now. I think we're at $14.8 trillion. So basically, she stopped at year number 2, which I think is frankly a little weak, because where's the dedication? You're only going to work for 2 years. Put in 5 years of work if you're going to grow your career. The richest person in the history of the world, Elon Musk, is maybe going to become a trillionaire after starting Tesla and SpaceX and buying X and yada yada yada. He didn't start Tesla; he was later named a co-founder or something like that.
XAI,
XAI, all of his investments after a 40-year career or whatever, he is going to maybe be a billionaire. But you can turn $100 into 14 trillion. Sorry, he might be a trillionaire, but you can turn $100 into 14 trillion in just 5 years by getting a simple 2% daily return. And of course, the reason that fails is because it's impossible. No one can get a 2% daily return consistently year over year, much less over 2 years or over 5 years or even daily or whatever, because it's just, we would all be multi-trillionaires if anyone could do that. And, I don't know who this girl is. She looks very young, and I doubt she knows what she's talking about because this math makes no sense. But, I don't even know what the point of this video is. Like, go take $100 and start day trading an account. Usually when something is this outrageous, if you go click on their profile, then you're like, oh, there's a series of videos they're selling, which is how they actually make money. Because, it's Regina Fernandez would be our first 15 trillionaire by now. She's been doing this for 5 years. If she's been doing it for only 2 years, she'd have 3 million, which ain't too shabby. But yeah, I mean, it's just utterly and totally absurd to assume you can get a compounding 2% daily return. You can get a 2% annual return per year pretty reasonably just by putting into a savings account. You can get a 10% annual return pretty likely by putting into something like an index fund. And above and beyond that, maybe certain leveraged real estate deals, you can start talking about 12, 13, 14% per year, maybe, as you're introducing more risk to maybe get these higher returns. Getting what's the math again? 1.02 to the power of 260. So we're not talking about 14%. We're talking about, what's the number? We're talking about a 17,000% return. That's what her annual return is. It's not 10% or 12%. It's 17,000%. And so these numbers aren't just, unlikely or you're not trying hard enough. It's just total fiction. So I don't know what else to say except, don't do that. People
don't
who
do that. You can't do that, even if you wanted to.
Yeah, no disrespect. It's a young person who doesn't understand the world of finance, whatever. But, the thing is, you can't do that, but you can try to do that. And people who try to do that end up being broke for decades. We talked about in our last episode, this young kid who became a PFC millionaire by just investing early and often for 7 years, investing a lot. He was living way below his means. And all he did is stack up index funds. He bought a few individual stocks and he held them. And he's a millionaire 7 years later, starting from like 60 grand or something. And, but if he wasn't doing it the PFC way, he was doing it the trying to get 2% per day way, he would still have 60,000, or maybe he'd be in catastrophic debt because he got the gambling bug and now he's in Gamblers Anonymous. And so, while you're chasing this like short-term, insane, impossible win, you miss out on the real long-term, real way to become a millionaire, which doesn't actually even take that much longer because he got there in 7 years instead of, 2 years, like she's suggesting. So yeah, I give this an F. This is bad. Her math is pretty close, but besides that, I give it no value.
Sorry, girl, had to do it to you. That's an F.
Sorry, Regina. Is it Regina?
Oh,
it's Reagan.
Reagan. Sorry, Reagan. Okay, let's go on to money. Jeremy had time today.
We're in the comments. You guys are starting old-fashioned flame wars with me, and I'm going to answer your comments.
That's right. I'm on LinkedIn today.
Oh, we have a LinkedIn?
We have a LinkedIn. And this is an older post, but I guess, we brought it back to the LinkedIn streets. And this is a post called Choose a Column. So tell us what we're looking at before we see what people had to say.
So it shows the average, and I think this isn't that old. I think I actually updated it recently because it shows the average U.S. car payment. Because when I first made this, the average U.S. car payment was like $500. And I was saying, hey, everyone, don't borrow $500 a month for a car. That's crazy. And now it's $730. And so it says, average U.S. car payment on finance new cars, $730 per month. And then assuming this is your entire budget, you would have $0 remaining to invest in an index fund returning 10% per year. So you'd end up 40 years later with $0. If you're just continually putting all $730 a month into your car and you're trading it from the next car, you're not living below your means, you're not investing, you're not following the two rules, you end up with 0. Whereas column B says you drive a paid for car and you take that $730 and you invest it every month. $730 a month invested into an index fund returning 10% annually for 40 years equals over $4 million. And just this one, by the way, like it's not free to own a paid for car and there's maintenance costs and things like that. So this is a hyperbolic example, but it just shows just the $730 a month that many people burn on a car payment. I saw an interview today with an NFL player. He said his car payments add up to $1,500 a month because he's got 2 cars and they're about $730 each. And, if you just talk to regular people anywhere, everyone's got a car note. That's how you drive. You borrow money for a car, but you don't have to do it that way. You can save up some cash, buy a used car in cash and invest your car note payment. And that's a $4 million opportunity. And so it's pretty big. And then what did this person say?
Car note is such a dated.
I know. I hate that word, note. Like, what is that? I don't use that word either. I was like, what is a note? A note is like a loan, car payment.
It's funny to me. It's just like, it's funny. Okay, it reminds me of a simpler time. This commenter said, sure, just invest for 40 years. Lots of exclamation points. Why not? Lots of question marks. The sarcasm is just spilling out of this text.
And it says above this person's name, senior radiologic technologist.
I almost blurred that, but I was like, it kind of makes it funnier.
I didn't realize when I was looking at this before the show, I didn't realize this was from LinkedIn. I was like, where is that? Where does it say their job? I was like, now that I see it, I'm like, this is a little bit unprofessional for LinkedIn. Normally in LinkedIn, people are like, well, that's a very good advice, but my amortization calculator says I should blah, blah, blah. Then this person's just straight up flaming me. Invest for 40 years? Why not? I think the subtext of the comment is, I don't want to wait 40 years to $4 million, or I'll be dead in 40 years, or I'm so like, what's the point if I can't get the money for 40 years? And, my answer is a few things. One, I'm 45 years old now. Jen's a few years behind me. Mm-hmm. She's a millennial. I think I technically missed millennial cutoff by like,
oh my gosh, you're obsessed with this.
I know.
You're never going to let it go. You're going to be 80 and be like, I was almost a millennial.
No, almost. I'm the last living Gen Xer. That'll be my new family. When every other Gen Xer is dead, I'll be the last one of our generation by 14 days. Are you going to start biohacking
now to make sure you're the last living Gen Xer?
Maybe that should be my new claim to fame. Youngest Gen Xer instead of the oldest millennial. But basically, here's a little secret. If you're in your 20s listening to this, there's a little secret about aging, which is you always feel young in your head. In your head, you're always the same person, and you always want things, and you always like nice things, and you always want to upgrade on nice trips, and you always want to live your best life. And so, if your mentality is why save for later when I could live now, the answer is it's going to be now later at some point, and you're going to want money then. 25 to 45 in my life went like a blink. I was 25 like yesterday. I feel like I don't know how 20 years has passed. And one of my fears in this world that I live with daily is that the next 20 years is going to go even faster. While I'm maybe about half done with my projected life at this point. And I weigh more than half with my, perception of life, just because, high school feels like it lasts a long time because you're changing classes every semester or whatever. Whereas, your 30s just goes by in a blink. So yeah, that's a scary part. So I think on one hand, you're always going to feel young and you're always going to want money. And so saving for later is a good thing. My other answer to that is, it's a balance. The implication from this hyperbolic example of a car payment invested isn't that you should live a horrible life for 40 years and then when you're 65, take your $4 million in your big bank and go to Vegas and just like have the weekend of your life and live a Brewster's Millions. Did we talk about that in this episode, or was that last episode?
Yeah, that was this episode.
Okay. Have a Brewster's Millions week and just go nuts. The point is to live your best life through all of your decades. It's not to like live a great 20s and then die, because that's not reality. But it's also not to live waste your youth and live a great 60s. That's not life either. And what most people do, I think, is they swing the pendulum too far to the spending side. They, buy a car they don't really need. They buy a bigger house than they really need. They buy fancier, clothes. They buy fancier trips. They buy fancier everything. And, there's alternate options that would give them just as good of a life. Still go on the trip, but, don't fly first class. Who really cares? Get it on a discount, or go on a road trip camping, or, get a roommate in your apartment for a few years, or, there's alternates where you would live just as happy of a life, but you'd be able to invest and save along the way. And then, if you're spending too much, you are terrified about losing your job. You are worried about the market going down. You're worried about taxes. You're worried about, everything is a total fear because you're living paycheck to paycheck. And in this house of cards that you're living on, one little breath of a financial wind and your financial life collapses. That's not a fun way to live. And so even though you feel like you're YOLOing and you're driving your fancy car now, if that car gets repoed because you lose your job and you can't make the payment, that's like a terrifying way to live day to day. On the flip side, if you're like saving 90% of your paycheck and living with your parents till you're 40 and you've never gone on a trip and you've never had a date and you've never, enjoyed your life, that's not good either. That's not living your best life. And so as much as I hate the word, you kind of do need to find a balance, which is saying, hey, I'm going to make it part of my plan to take some cash.
You hate the word balance?
I hate the word balance. The balance is like a cop-out. I want it all. I want 100% pedal to the metal. And, balance is like, oh, okay, just a little bit. It's like the bland oatmeal of culinary. Oh, just a little
interesting. I've never heard anybody they say they hate balance.
I hate balance. I hate that word. It's such a cop-out.
Okay.
Yeah, here I am relying on it because you do need to find that middle point where it's saying, hey, okay, I'm going to create a buffer into my workflow. I'm going to automate some payments into my 401k, automate some payments in my Roth IRA, automate some payments into my high yield savings account. And I'm going to go nuts and like really enjoy the rest. And I'm going to, not feel guilty about that. And that combo kind of gives you some buffer and say, hey, if I lose my job, I've got my emergency fund, I've got my 401k, I've got my Roth IRA, I'm not in terrible shape. And I went on that trip. I stayed in a, Airbnb, splitting it with a friend rather than a 5-star resort. Cool. It was amazing. It was still amazing experiences. That's, I think, my general view on how to live your best life. And so the point of this post isn't live a terrible life until you're 65. The post is, this is part of the balance, saying, hey, automate some of those payments, spend some rest. And, to this commenter's credit, like I didn't put that in the post. I mean, maybe I did in the text, but it's not in the image itself. And so they might be misunderstanding the point. But, when you're 65, you're going to be glad to have millions, I assume. I'm only 45, so I don't know, but it's not that far away. Because to me, 50 feels like 65, and 50 is only 5 years away. So
50 is not 65.
To me, it feels the same for some reason. I feel like 40 is like the last decade where you're kind of still young, and then 50 plus is old. And I say that as someone who's going to have to eat these words in 4.5 years.
Yeah, you're fine. Just live in the moment.
Okay. Good advice, Jen.
I'm just saying, like, I know you hate the word balance, and maybe this is laying into that, but like, you have time, and you're healthy and happy, so live now.
That is very true. That's the whole point. Is you want to, health cannot be replaced. They say, the billionaire with a sore throat, all he thinks about every single time he swallows is how much his throat hurts, right?
Have you ever seen a video where it's like, can you breathe out of both nostrils right now? Like, thank God. Because when you're like sick and you're like, all I want to do is be able to breathe out of both nostrils.
Oh. Or your ear pops. Yeah, totally.
And you can breathe out of both nostrils. Just, just say thank you. I'm glad that I can breathe out of both nostrils today. And if you can't, I hope that happens for you soon.
Yeah. I went to my doctor and he said I've got a messed up nose and I probably need one of those like nose surgeries. I got punched.
What's wrong with your nose?
I got punched in the face when I was like 10 or something. I know it
By
doesn't seem like a very Jeremy thing to do, to be in like an actual fist fight, but I was at summer camp. I'm not going to say his name on the air, but I remember his name and I hate him. But this kid was pummeling a littler kid, like literally punching a little kid, and like ran up to him and I was like pulled him off and I said, I was like, stop. And I was just like my instinct, like stop punching that kid. And then he puts his arms out I don't know if you can see this. It probably is off camera, but he puts his arms out with his hands and fists like a helicopter and starts spinning around with his hands and fists. And like little 10-year-old Jeremy is just like, before it even happens, I have like no, street smarts, fight or flight. I just stand there. One of his fists comes helicoptering towards me, smashes me directly in the face, and like blood just comes gushing out of my nose, like breaks my nose. And like,
oh my God.
I go to the office and they're like, these two got in a fight. I was like, I didn't get in a fight. This kid like sucker punched me.
You were fighting for justice.
I was fighting for justice. I was trying to protect someone. And so I got near this kid and he like helicopter punched me as a 10-year-old.
Who does that, by the way? Like,
I know, like a punk little 10-year-old. I hope that dude's in jail.
Oh my God. Was he also 10?
Yeah, we were in the same grade. Like I went to school with him. Like I knew him from school too. Like I think we were like went to middle school together, but not high school or whatever. But yeah, remember him. He was a punk kid. But actually looking back on it, he probably had like a horrible home life. He probably, had, his parents were probably cokeheads or something, meth heads. I don't know. What was the 80s? What were they on? What was the drug of choice in the 80s? I don't
know.
But
cocaine.
Crack. We did live near Detroit. Might have been some crack. So
you're gonna have to get a nose surgery, so you might not be able to breathe out of both nostrils for a little while.
That's the thing, is like it's gonna get way worse before it gets any better, and so I'm like, oh, maybe it's.
Can you get a nose job? Do you want to get like a Kim Kardashian?
Well, he said
nose?
He said it would like my nose is a little bit crooked. You can kind of see if you're looking at if I look directly
right now, so I can't see.
Oh, okay. Well, my nose is always like veered like 10% to one side, and so like I have like a good side because like if my nose is like pointing towards the camera, it looks like more natural. When nose is pointing away from the camera, it looks like. Okay. Yeah.
It's a very LA conversation.
Completely off the rails. This is
plastic surgery.
I know. When I live in Michigan, I like knew like one girl in my entire. Moved when I was 29, and my entire life, I think I'd only met one person who had like any sort of like breast augmentation. In San Diego, that is not the case. That is,
bro. People, there's like kids here that get like Botox. Like they're like 20. I'm like. You might want to hold off.
It's very weird, like straddling this world. And the thing is, like, they're all very good people on both coasts. Like, there's no there's no culture war as far as I'm concerned. Like, Michigan is full of good people, California is full of good people, but there's definitely a lot more plastic surgery here. I just think there's a lot more people just want to look good at the beach.
Well, a lot of people are on camera here in their defense, and now it's like the standard is to have like veneers and like a perfect face, and now everybody looks the same. So I can give them that. Like you can't really even like, if you're an actor, if you're an actor, I'm not gonna get mad at you for getting plastic surgery, but you're just living in LA and you're randomly getting like a nose job, like relax.
But see, in San Diego, no one's an actor down here. We're just vain beachgoers. So, but they're still all doing it. So. I do feel like LA is especially, every time I've been there, it's especially vain. All right, let's end this episode. If the point is, if you want to be able to afford your plastic surgery, what do you got to do? You got to follow the 2 rules of Personal Finance Club. Rule number 1, live below your means. And rule number 2, invest early and often. See you next week.
The Personal Finance Club show is produced by Jeremy Schneider and Jen Mundia. Music by Esabalu and Homie. Send your questions to podcast@personalfinanceclub.com. The Personal Finance Club show is co-hosted by Jeremy Schneider, who is a co-owner of Nectarine, an SEC-registered investment advisor. The views expressed on this show are those of the hosts and guests and do not necessarily reflect the views of Nectarine. Please refer to hellonectarine.com for all relevant disclosures. This podcast is for informational and educational purposes only and should not be construed as personalized investment advice or a solicitation to buy or sell any security. Listeners should consult their own financial, legal, or tax professionals for advice specific to their situation.